So we will go ahead and move on to another team down in this part of the Southeast, the neighbors to the east, the Alabama Crimson Tide. We've got year 3 of Kalen DeBoer coming up. They finished the season last year in the quarterfinals against the Indiana Hoosiers, get absolutely boat raced by the Hoosiers out in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. But they were able to go on the road, win a road game against Oklahoma, that Friday night college football playoff game. Ty Simpson has been drafted in the first round by the Los Angeles Rams. They will have a new quarterback under center. That being said, this feels like it's going to be a vintage Alabama Crimson Tide team under the old regime of Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. The strength is going to be in the defensive side of the ball for sure. And if they can get some good production out of the new quarterback, this could be a very dangerous team. I think Alabama is a program that is now easy to kind of view as down, but they're down from the most dominant program, the most dominant run we've seen in the last 50 years under Saban. They're still very much a top 10, maybe even top 5 type of program. We were talking about basically a full Kalen DeBoer team. We've been through, I think this would be now like the third cycle of high school and portal recruiting that they've done. So this roster should be much more in his image and likeness than the previous 2 Kalen DeBoer Alabama teams. So Ryan, I'll come to you here first. Where do you see DeBoer taking this? And are we talking about him still on the hot seat following this season? Or does he cool things down and get Alabama back on track as a true national title contender this year?
Well, I think that's what he has to do to truly be off the hot seat in Alabama. He has to win a national championship. They don't really accept anything less. They are as crazy as they come. So unless he does that this year, no, he will be on the hot seat for the foreseeable future. Taking the job after Nick Saban you're always going to be judged against him. And he didn't have any classes that went through Alabama that did not win a national championship. So this is DeBoer's 3rd year. I don't think he will get fired after this year, but I think that the seat will get hotter. I'm kind of down on Alabama this year. I do think they'll have a good defense. As far as SEC schedules go, theirs isn't quite as brutal as others. I know it's still tough. It's not quite as easy if Auburn turns out to be as good as I think they are, but Vanderbilt, Chattanooga, Auburn is a decent way to end the season. What are they going to get out of the quarterback is really important. DeBoer always seems to get something. I'm not a big Austin Mack guy. If I'm an Alabama fan, I'd want this Keelon Russell to take the starting job and become the guy, because I do not think they are going to go very far with Austin Mack. I guess I'm judging him by a pretty small sample size, but I'm not a big fan of him.
I think that's a fair take, Ryan. I don't think there's any doubt that there's already some murmurs about Kalen DeBoer's job security down there in Tuscaloosa, and another underperforming season, even if you get to the quarterfinals of the CFP and you get smoked again and you look like you're not even close, that's just not where Alabama fans expect to be. That seat could be anywhere from, pretty warm to burning hot by the end of the season, if he even makes it to next season without getting canned. So, Marsh, let's come to you. Where are you with the Alabama Crimson Tide this year?
Yeah, I think that their entire season hinges on Keelon Russell. And you mentioned Austin Mack, Ryan. I think if Austin Mack wins this job, they lose probably 4 games easily and probably 2 or 3 more, because I don't trust the guy at all. I think he lacks the dynamic aspect that this team needs right now. And Keelon Russell brings that to the table. Now, as a sophomore, obviously Keelon only threw like 15 passes last year, didn't really get much playing time, but he has all the athletic traits. I think he has to take the lead for this team to be relevant. They were so bad last year outside of Ty Simpson. You take him off of that team, they probably lose 5-6 games. Based on what they have on the roster, Keelon Russell really makes the only sense to me as far as bringing that energy, that dynamic ability, the rushing ability. They have to have some sort of playmaker come in, because, listen, Ryan Williams was so bad last year, he had to change his name. And now he goes by Ryan Coleman Williams. I mean, he's trying to avoid the Google search because he only had like 600 yards last season and 4 touchdowns. I just don't see Kalen DeBoer, what he's brought to this program. And we mentioned the hot seat aspect. I'm with you. I don't think he gets fired after this year unless it's egregious and they do lose, 6 games. But I think the defense will hold things together. Kane Wommack has done pretty unbelievable job with his 4-2-5 swarm defense, different positions, the bandit, the wolf, the husky, rover, sting, all these buzzwords about a defense. But the premise is really that all 11 people are attacking the ball at all times. So it's kind of fun to watch, especially with the back end talent that they have and the athletic ability of some of these DBs. They got a corner that's 6'4" and is just a freak athlete. So I want to see that defense become more the Nick Saban defense. They came close last year based on how they played. They need to take that leap, and I think Keelon Russell really has to elevate his play and become the go-to guy. The Jalen Hurts, the Tuas of the world. The defense is going to do its job. So with Ryan Grubb at the helm, Kalen DeBoer, the offense really has to make sure that this wasn't just Ty Simpson and the 13th overall pick in the draft. Show me that another guy can come in here and really take this offense to the next level in year 3. Otherwise, I'm out on it.
Which I think is a perfectly reasonable take. I like Alabama. I feel like this is a year where they rebound and get back to, they flex their muscle a little bit in terms of their physicality. I have a pretty good feeling about, I think, what they're going to have on the offensive line. I love that they have kind of a retro badass defensive backfield with, led by Bray Hubbard, but then, outside they got Zabien Brown and Dijon Lee. They bring in Keon Sabb, the safety from Michigan is a transfer into Alabama this year. They've got some athletic linebackers. And Marsh, you mentioned the swarm defense. I think that defense gets them to at least 9-10 wins and probably back in the playoff this year. And we'll see. We'll see kind of what the matchups are from there. But Ryan alluded to it. I think from a SEC scheduling standpoint, they opened the season with East Carolina. They got at Kentucky. They got Florida State, who, they may be kind of the henchman that puts an end to Mike Norvell there in week 3 against the Noles at home. You got Lenore Sellers in South Carolina, then at Mississippi State, Georgia at home. At Tennessee, rivalry game, Texas A&M at home, at LSU, at Vandy, Chattanooga, and then Auburn. So, you look at their road games, it's Kentucky, it's Mississippi State, it's Tennessee, LSU, and Vandy. So LSU was the first team we talked about today. They were the 8th, power ranked team, but that's their toughest road game, in terms of the preseason power ratings is at LSU. Everyone else is kind of in the bottom half of the league, right? So that's a pretty favorable road slate. You get Georgia at home. You get Texas A&M at home. It doesn't seem to me like there's more than a couple losses on this schedule if their offense is even average. I think the defense will be pretty elite. And I like this team to get to probably at least 10-2. Their over-under is 8.5. So I really like them to get to 9-3. And I like the over 8.5, and I like the CFP yes of plus 165. So that's where I'm at on Alabama. What about you guys?
Yeah, we talk about the schedule here. I actually think it does Kalen DeBoer no favors. And the reason I say that is on paper, outside of that October 10th to November 7th stretch where you get Georgia, Tennessee, A&M, and LSU, you should be winning every one of these games. And if they start to falter, look out. Because the Roll Tide fam is going to be all over Kalen DeBoer. He's 20-8 thus far as a head coach at Alabama. They're only 14-point favorites against East Carolina in week 1 at home. Like, that to me is a little scary. But then we talk about now all of a sudden you get to the end of the season in the Iron Bowl and you've got Alex Galesh, who has now probably got Auburn humming, given he's had plenty of time to get that team where he wants mid-season. I don't see it as a walk in the park, but there are a lot of winnable games outside of that middle stretch there. And I think if you see them slip against a South Carolina or Vanderbilt or an Auburn, and that ends up being but one of 3-4 losses, I think Kalen DeBoer is really going to be updating his resume. I'm not on the under only because To your point, I think Womack will have this defense where it needs to be. I think they can steal one against like a Tennessee or an LSU, maybe even win both of those games. I think they'll probably lose to Georgia and Texas A&M for sure, but those are really the only two that are for sure losses in my books. I think from that perspective, I would probably lean toward the over and say that if Keelon Russell plays the way that I think he's capable of, and if he takes that next step, then that's probably where I would go. But Alabama for me is one of those that I'm really just kind of keeping at arm's length. I don't know that I'll have much action on this team.
Yeah, I'm not going to have any action either. If I had to choose, I would take the under 8.5. I think DeBoer might lose it this year, lose the locker room. A few losses early could send them spiraling.
All right. Well, sounds like I am by far the most bullish. CFP, no, minus 215. Sounds like you guys would probably lean that way over the CFP, yes, of plus 165. But this is a make or break season for DeBoer. I don't know if they hit the under, and they're 8-4 with this schedule. I think there's a fair chance he gets canned. I think if they hit the over, they're at least 9-3, and they're at least, if not in the CFP, kind of right on the outside looking in again, like they were in year one of his tenure. I don't think they necessarily fire him, but they got to at least get to 9-3. I think anything below that is really an abject failure for them this year. So it's put up or shut up time for old Kalen and the Alabama Crimson Tide.